It would be nice if it were possible to write a program perfectly the first time, then deploy it and have it run without problems. Sadly, this isn't the case in the real world. Instead, debugging is an important step in the creation of any program, and it's particularly important for Java servlets and faces because they will be accessed by a diverse array of computers once deployed. If there is a bug, it won't just affect your own computer, but it will affect every computer that accesses your servlet. There are a number of different debugging tools for servlets and faces, and they tend to be IDE specific. But for this video, we'll look at two of the most useful techniques for our setup: the Eclipse debugger and adding debug statements within the code itself. If you run into problems with your code that can't be easily solved just by looking at it, the first resort is to analyze the way your program runs. This can be done using the built-in debugging console for the Eclipse integrated development environment. To access this from within your Eclipse client, click on the plus view icon in the upper right-hand corner. After clicking this button, choose to open the debug perspective and click OK. This opens the debug perspective in Eclipse, which provides you with a lot of additional information and flexibility about how the program runs. On the left side panel, you can still see and run all of your source code as before, but now instead of running an entire method or package at a time, you can choose to run only part of the code and then suspend the thread. To do this, you can set a breakpoint by double-clicking the scroll bar on the left-hand side. Wherever you click will be the line where the program will stop. Then, in the panel at the top right, click on the Breakpoints tab to see your new breakpoint. You can set as many breakpoints as you want, and by checking and unchecking the boxes next to them, you can control which breakpoints are going to be used when the program runs. When you're ready, click the Debug button to run the package. When the execution reaches your breakpoint, it will stop, allowing you to see exactly what errors, if any, have occurred. You can also look at the Variables tab to see the current values of each variable that has been initialized. When you're done with this step, click the Resume button at the top or press F8 to continue program execution. The program will continue to execute until the next breakpoint or to the end if there are no more breakpoints. If instead you just want to step through the program line by line, then after running it in debug mode, you can click the Step Over button or press F6. This acts as if there were a breakpoint on every line, allowing you a blow-by-blow view of how the program is changing. The other option for debugging is to modify the code of the servlet itself. Because servlets tend to run in the background, it can be hard sometimes to see exactly what's going on to cause an error. The easiest way to figure out what your program is doing is to add copious amounts of print statements around any problem lines. Print statements have similar functionality to the debug menu, but they're a little bit more powerful because you aren't limited to merely looking at the values of variables. For instance, your code may run perfectly, but it might be very slow. If you add timers around each method and print out the amount of time they take, then you can easily see where the bottlenecks are in your code. Additionally, having commented out print statements throughout your code makes it easier for someone else to understand. Rather than attempting to puzzle out your code line by line, they can just uncomment all the print statements and run the code, and then the code itself will print out exactly what it's doing on each line. In the next video, we'll get more in depth with our discussion of running time and how to ensure that your algorithm executes as efficiently as possible.